Both of the kittens are in here with me, but they are at the moment being quiet. But if noise picks up, both of the kittens are in here with me. All right then. Dante. It's been one of those mornings. This is the second day in a row that I've had my bike ride cut short. Yesterday it was because it started raining and I got wet. And today was Tom had a nail in his tire. So he thought he was going to be okay. And then I hit a certain point, I looked at the tire and I went, nope, we're turning around and going home. That bike is not going to make it. And he got to a certain point and then he ended up having to walk it the rest of the way home. So, and I extended my bike ride just a little bit, but I was just like, so yeah, you can get nails in your bike tires too. There's some road construction going. I think what they're doing is they're repairing, water mains. So, but of course they're tearing up the road and then they have to repave the road. And so, yeah, it's probably where we picked up that tire or that nail. So, cause his bike was making a funny sound this first thing this morning. So yeah, that's what's going on in my life. Okay. So we're doing Living the Science of Mind. We are, if the blind lead the blind today. So this should be interesting. It's kind of short, but let's get the housekeeping out of the way so we can figure out what we're going to talk, what the blind leading the blind means. Even though I probably already know. It's a well-known Bible quote from Jesus. So the housekeeping is just simply me reminding you that we are Creative Life Spiritual Center. The website is creativelife.org. The constant contact email, info@creativelife.org. If you will email that, you get one email a week unless something unusual happens. I will point out we do live in hurricane country. Tells you what's going on for the week and the month, and the hot links are hot. So if it says click here now, it means it. And the most important thing is it is a blind CC, meaning nobody's going to see your email. So you won't end up on anybody else's email because of us. So I think it's worth doing. And there's all kinds of really interesting information in the newsletters all the time anyway. So there's that. All right. And then the last thing is the social medias. I mentioned the social medias simply from the fact that we don't monetize them. We don't want to deal with the ads any more than you do. So what we ask you to do instead is help bump us in the algorithms, like, subscribe, share, follow. So, based on which platform you're on, and then engage with the individual posts, comment, react, share the posts. It bumps us in the algorithms and all it costs you is a click. So we would appreciate it. All right. Now, I've started calling this the FAQ, the frequently asked questions, simply because that's what I think these essays came from. All but two of these essays came out of the at-home course that used to be in the back of the Science of Mind. If you are interested in that, it was 48 lessons. If you are interested in that, it is available. They bound it into 6 books. I think it's called Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life. But go to the Science of Mind Archives website and go to their book section and use their Amazon link. So you're still going to buy it from Amazon, but if you use their link, then some of the money goes back to the archives, which is a fantastic organization to support. And I happen to adore Reverend Kathy because we went to school together. So, and she works very hard to keep the archives up and running and doing all of that. So please do that. All right. I think that's everything. Yeah. Oh, no. So frequently asked questions. I think people went to the lectures and read the textbook and had questions. And so he would write essays in answer, and that became the take-home course, which eventually became Living the Science of Mind. So, frequently asked questions. Okay. I get distracted. I'm easily distracted some days. Let me make sure that's all the way up. Nope. Go the other way. All right. Like maximum brightness on my little lamp. It's the most fantastic little lamp I've ever had. It's like, but it folds flat. And it has, levels of brightness, and it's a USB. So you plug it into your computer and charge it up. It's great. And then it lasts for me using it for 20 minutes in the morning. It lasts all week. All right. And it charges pretty quick too. Okay. So we are doing I'm doing a commercial. I don't even know what the name of the lamp is. I got it off Amazon. If the blind lead the blind. Jesus must have been the wisest man who ever lived. Today, we can connect many of his sayings with our new outlook on the mental and emotional life. For instance, in psychological analysis, it is believed that if a physician, in analyzing a patient, uncovers in the patient an unconscious hatred for their father, and if the physician had the same aversion for their own father, then the analysis might well stop right there. This is because the physician is not able to see with clarity a block in another if they have the same type of block in themselves. Well, that's interesting. I'll tell you why that's interesting in a minute. Let's keep going. In psychological terms, this is expressed by saying that wherever there is an emotional bias, there will be an intellectual blind spot. Okay, now I can buy that. Wherever there is an emotional bias, there is an intellectual blind spot. Okay, this means that we cannot think with truthful clarity about things that we are too emotionally affected by. Jesus understood this, and that is why he said that if the blind lead the blind, they will both fall into the ditch. Okay. We all have such emotional biases, and this is why we think it's strange when someone who we hold to be highly intelligent seems to be irrational on certain points. We often say, how can they believe as they do when such a belief contradicts common sense or reason? But could we uncover their whole mental life, we should discover the emotional bias deep down there in their unconscious, where they have a block which makes it impossible for them to think straight on that particular subject. This is why many of our theological this is where many of our theological conflicts come from. This is why people are prone to say that they alone are right, or their system of thought. Maybe I need to slow down. Okay. This is where many of our theological conflicts come from. Okay. I'm trying. I'm slowing down. This is why people are prone to say that they alone are right, or their system of thought alone is right. They have not yet gotten a clearance back to the fundamental proposition that God is one and that every person is an incarnation of the same God. Therefore, intolerance and harshness, unkindness and criticism, coldness and indifference are projected. This is one of those tricks which the mind plays on us. When we understand these things, we shall become more tolerant, more kind, more compassionate, because we realize that we are all on the pathway of evolution, not of the spirit, which is already perfect, but of the mind, which so often is blindly groping in the dark. We will be helped over many a difficulty if we realize that an emotional bias does create a mental blind spot. Then, if we learn to overlook the differences because we understand them, we shall no longer bring condemnation to add to condemnation or judgment to add to judgment. And our own lives will become enriched as they always must with new knowledge. Living is an art as well as a science. It is a thing of beauty as well as form, a thing of the heart as well as the intellect. It is a combination of all these things that makes up the factors of a well-rounded life. And again, we come right back to the fundamental proposition that the problems we face are not external. They are within. They are not some other person's fault, neither are they necessarily our own fault. They are the fault of ignorance from which enlightenment alone can free us. No, the blind cannot lead the blind, and we are all blind in spots. Therefore, no person should set themselves up as a great example, but humbly following the pathway of truth as they see it, with a good-natured and flexible tolerance for themselves and others, learn to overlook all mistakes and feel their way through confusion back to the central flame from which every person's life is lighted. Okay. All right. I like that he says that they are not necessarily our own fault. We do get a little bit caught up in the whole blame thing. It's like, well, if so-and-so would do this, then I could do this. If so-and-so would do this, my life would be so much better. Or frequently we turn around and blame ourselves. If I could only do this, then my life would be, if I only had this, my life would be. And what he's saying is, no, it's frequently what's going on is it's just ignorance. We haven't learned. And so it is up to us to learn. Now, why I said it was interesting that he decided to do the blind leading the blind, and maybe I would have to do some research to see what Ernest says about this. But when I was in not ministerial school, when I was in practitioner training, one of the things that I remember, I believe it was Reverend Marcia that said, frequently, whatever issue you have that you are working on, you're going to attract people into your life who want treatment on that. The clients that come to you are going to have issues similar to what you have. And I remember this because I remember doing a the oral panel a practice session, and we talked about that with the to-be practitioner who did end up becoming a practitioner. So it's like, okay, people know that you've gone through this, so they're gonna come to you because you've been through this. And sometimes it's just it's just kind of random. And the interesting thing about treatment, since I'm treating myself, that's who I'm treating. I'm not treating the client. I'm treating about the client. I'm treating myself about the client. Like, I'm getting clear, but frequently I get to work on things that I need to work on anyway. But I do know about emotional blind spots. I do. And that's one of the things that's so amazing about practitioner training is they don't call it Prac 1 anymore. They now call it Advanced Consciousness Studies, ACS. When you go through that, you learn where all of your blind spots are. You learn where all of your buttons are. And ideally, you learn to unwire. You get to unwire a lot of blind spots. So that if somebody comes to you with a problem that you either have a blind spot or a trigger, then you can say, I am not the practitioner for you. Let me recommend. Because just because somebody comes to you, Emma does say, if somebody comes to you for treatment, you can help them. It doesn't mean you are necessarily the best practitioner for them, but it means that you can get them to the right practitioner. So just because somebody comes to you doesn't mean you have to be their practitioner. Especially if it's hitting one of your blind spots or one of your emotional biases or one of your trigger points. That's where you say, you know what? I'm not the practitioner for you, but so-and-so is a really good practitioner. So let me suggest you talk to that person. That's what I thought. That's why I thought, when he says that, it's interesting. It's interesting. But it's one of those things that I do know. Every practitioner has a practitioner. Most of us have at least two. It's like, okay, in certain situations, this is the practitioner I go to. In other situations, this is the practitioner I go to. We all are there for each other. That's part of the deal. And then the other thing is, when you deal with therapists and psychologists and psychiatrists, they all have therapists, psychologists, and psychiatrists. They have to go and offload their stuff too. It's just the nature of the work. So the blind cannot lead the blind. They're just groping around in the dark. And I do appreciate that he said I think that was that biggest line. And it's almost a throwaway line. It's in this reading where he says, they have not yet gotten a clearance back to the fundamental proposition that God is one, that every person is an incarnation of the same God. When we recognize that, and I think that's one of the strengths of New Thought, is that we can look around and go, oh, we're using different terminology, but it's all the same God. It's all the same God. I think that's one of the things that the Hindu kind of went, you know what? It's all the same God. In the end, it all goes back to Brahma. But I can't deal with that. So I'm just going to deal with this little aspect, and I'm going to call it this for the sake of clarity of what it is that I'm working on. You know, they accuse the Hindus of being polytheistic, and they're not. They recognize that there's only one God. They just also recognize that they can't deal with the allness of God. And that's where they were like, you know what? I'm just going to deal with this little aspect right here. This is what I need right now. And that's why people get all bent out of shape about Islam, because Allah's not a different God. Same God. They are, in fact, considered people of the book. The Jewish, the Christian, and the Islam all use the same the same books. The Jews have their part of the book, and then the Christians use the Jewish part and the Christian part, and then the Islam uses the Jewish part, the Christian part, and then they have their own part. All Allah means in Arabic is Father. That's it. It's the same God. And when you can get there, then you become, I guess tolerant is a good word. You become more tolerant. You become more interested. It's like, oh, well, what else do we have in common? We're more alike than we are different. Although, New Thought likes to celebrate the differences. And that's how we can be tolerant. It's because we recognize, okay, you know what? It's all the same God. It's all the same God. So tell me your experience of God. Tell me your experience of the divine. Tell me about your practice. What brings you closer to the divine? That's the most amazing thing about New Thought. So, all right. We're curious. We're curious. And I was talking to somebody about idioms, and it's like curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought him back. That's it. We get to be curious as cats, and learn about each other and celebrate what we have in common and celebrate what we have that's different. Okay. That is the lesson for today. I'm going to move on into the process of my day. So I'm now going to encourage you to have a great day, a wondrous day, a fantastic day, a magical day, an enchanted day, a wonderful day, an awesome day, an amazing day. It's the middle of the week day. Enjoyed the cooler morning. It was 2 degrees cooler, but the feels like was actually the temperature, which was really cool. Temperature. Enjoy the thunderstorms this afternoon day. Don't stay out of the lightning and thunder day. Stay out of the sunlight between 10 and 2 day. Be aware of the heat day. Drink plenty of water day. Cuddle the fur babies day. Cuddle your fur babies day. Actually, cuddle any fur babies day. You know, all fur babies need to be cuddled. Tell somebody you love them day. A look in the eyes and see the divine looking back at you day. You got this day. Do something amazing for yourself day. Take care of yourself day. Take a break day. Take care of business day. A good day. And if that is too much pressure, because I understand, occasionally it is, simply have a day. You are enough. Just as you are. You are a beloved expression of the divine. You are a brilliant light, a divine spark, spirit in motion, God in action, a beautiful masterpiece, and a work in progress at the same time, at your own pace, And as Reverend Jesse likes to call us, you are a godling. So explore the truth of your being. Get to know who the divine knows you to be. Because the divine knows you to be good. And from there, anything is possible. Anything at all. All right, beloveds. Reverend David should be on around 5 p.m. with you. I should be back with you around 9-ish tomorrow. Take care of yourself. Know that you are loved. And I will see you next time.